At a crowded game night, Jake's wife, Sophia, humiliates him in front of her colleagues, smirking as she delivers a chilling ultimatum. Do what I say, or pack your bags. The room freezes. Jake walks out, but what he uncovers next, a web of lies, betrayal, and a stolen legacy, ignites a fierce plan for justice. Will he reclaim his life, or will Sophia's schemes destroy him? Buckle up for a story of betrayal, cunning, and a comeback you won't see coming. The air in the downtown Austin loft buzzed with chatter and the clink of wine glasses. Jake, a 32-year-old IT specialist, leaned back in his chair, forcing a smile as his wife, Sophia, held court at the head of the table. It was game night, her idea, a chance for her to shine among her marketing colleagues from the sleek tech firm she'd climbed the ranks of. Jake was there to play his usual role. The supportive husband who fixed her laptop crashes, refilled her wine, and stayed out of the spotlight. He didn't mind, usually. For years into their marriage, he'd grown used to her orbit, her sharp wit, her need to dazzle. But tonight, something felt off. The trivia game was in full swing, questions about pop culture and history bouncing around the room. Jake, never one for small talk, focused on the cards, trying to keep up. He got one wrong. Something about a 90s band, and Sophia's laugh cut through the noise, sharp and deliberate. "Oh, Jake," she said, leaning forward, her voice dripping with mock sweetness. "If you can't keep up, at least don't embarrass me in front of my friends." The table erupted in laughter, not all of it kind. Jake's face burned, but he chuckled, brushing it off like he always did. He reached for his drink, hoping the moment would pass. It didn't. Sophia, 3 glasses of Merlot deep, wasn't done. She leaned closer, her eyes glinting with something colder than amusement. "Sweetie, I told him once in front of his friends, do what I say or pack your bags." The words landed like a slap. The room froze. 10 pairs of eyes darted between Jake and Sophia, the air thick with awkward silence. Someone coughed. A phone buzzed, ignored. Jake's grip tightened on his glass, his knuckles whitening. He didn't remember standing, but the screech of his chair against the hardwood floor echoed, violent and final. Every conversation died, like someone had yanked the plug on sound itself. Sophia's lips curled into a tight, victorious smile, as if Jake's reaction was exactly what she'd wanted. He didn't plan to speak, hadn't even realized he was going to, but the words came out, low and steady. "Do you want me to leave now? Or should I wait for dessert?" No one laughed this time, not even her. Sophia blinked, her confident facade flickering like a bad signal. "Oh, come on, Jake," she said, waving a hand. "Don't be dramatic. It's just a joke." That word, joke, hung in the air hollow. Jake didn't respond. He grabbed his jacket from the couch, his phone buzzing in his pocket, group chat notifications he didn't check. He walked out, the door clicking shut behind him. Halfway to the elevator, he stopped, realizing his keys were still in Sophia's purse. He turned back, his steps heavy, dreading the return. As he cracked the door open, he heard voices. Ryan, Sophia's co-worker, the one who always lingered too long at her side, was speaking. Damn, he actually left. Didn't think he had it in him. Sophia's reply was instant, casual cutting. Give him 5 minutes. He always comes crawling back. A quieter voice, Mia, maybe his cousin who'd always been kind, muttered, "That was kind of harsh, sophomore." Jake didn't wait for more. He slipped in, grabbed his keys from her purse on the counter, and left again, her words burning in his chest. He drove for hours. No destination, no music, just the hum of the engine and the replay of her voice in his head. "Do what I say, or pack your bags." It wasn't the first time she'd said it, but it was the first time she'd meant it so publicly, so cruelly. Jake pulled into a gas station lot off I-35, the neon lights flickering in the dark. He reclined his seat, staring at the car's ceiling, trying to piece together when their marriage had become a stage for her performance. His phone buzzed again. He ignored it, but then it buzzed once more, a text from an unknown number. "She's done this before. Meet me tomorrow, 4 p.m., Zilker Park lot by the Burnout Diner. Come alone." Jake's pulse quickened. He read it again, the words cold and precise like a warning shot. A prank? A trap? He didn't know, but something about the message felt too real to ignore. He saved it, his mind racing. Sophia's smile, her calculated jab, the laughter of strangers who barely knew his name. It all churned in his gut. He wasn't angry, not yet, but something inside him had snapped, not with a bang, but with a quiet, dangerous clarity. He wasn't going back to being her prop. Not tonight. Not ever. At 5:40 a.m., he drove home. The Austin skyline was still dark, the streets empty except for early joggers and delivery trucks. Their condo in South Congress was quiet, the kind of quiet that felt like it was holding its breath. Sophia was asleep, sprawled across their bed, one leg claiming his side like territory. Jake moved silently, grabbing a gym bag from the closet. He stuffed it with clothes, a charger, his laptop, essentials for a life he hadn't planned to restart. By the door, their wedding photo stared back at him, a relic of a promise that felt like someone else's memory. He didn't linger. Then, her tablet lit up on the nightstand. Jake hesitated. He wasn't the type to snoop, but that text from the unknown number gnawed at him. He picked it up, the screen unlocking with a swipe. A message from R popped up. He's still sulking? Wanting to swing by later? Jake's stomach twisted. He tapped the thread, scrolling up. Ryan's words stared back at him. You used to pack his bags line again? Savage. Sophia's reply. It works. Shuts him down every time. Another from Ryan. You're cruel. It's kinda hot. And then, the one that stopped his breath. You don't mind taking over a broken project, do you? Sophia. Not if I get to rebuild it my way. Sooner than you think. Jake set the tablet down, his hands shaking. The room didn't tilt, but it might as well have. All this time, he thought he was the problem. Too quiet, too accommodating, not enough for a spotlight. But he wasn't the problem. He was the placeholder. He grabbed his bag and walked out, the door closing softly behind him. Across the street, he parked, staring up at their window. Sophia's light was still off. She hadn't called, hadn't texted, but she'd sent a message, just not to him. And that was the first crack in a foundation he hadn't realized was already crumbling. Jake's car idled in the empty Zilker Park lot, the burned-out diner's skeleton looming under a gray Austin sky. It was 3:55 p.m., 5 minutes before the meeting time for the cryptic text. His fingers tapped the steering wheel, eyes scanning for any sign of the sender. The message, she's done this before. Meet me tomorrow for P.M. Zilker Park lot by the burnout diner. Come alone, had kept him awake, replaying alongside Sophia's smug words from game night. He hadn't told anyone, not even his buddy Carlos, about the meeting. This felt like something he needed to face alone. At 4:01, a silver sedan rolled in, tires crunching gravel. A woman stepped out, tall, maybe 40, moving with purpose. She carried a manila folder, her steps deliberate as she approached Jake's car. You're Jake? She asked, voice flat but steady. He nodded, stepping out, his pulse hammering. I'm Lila, she said, wasting no time. Sophia was married to my brother, Ethan, before you. She gutted his life and left him with nothing. She's doing the same to you. She handed him the folder, her eyes hard. Proof. Jake opened it, his hands unsteady. Inside were bank statements, wire transfers, and screenshots of texts, all under Sophia's name from 5 years ago. Photos showed her with a man who looked like an older version of Ryan, her co-worker, same cocky grin, same entitled posture. One document caught Jake's eye, a divorce agreement with forged signatures, leaving Ethan with a trash credit score and no savings. Lila pointed to a handwritten note in the folder, Sophia's handwriting unmistakable. Upgraded to a better model, it read, with a photo of Jake and Sophia on their wedding day clipped to it. She sent this to Ethan's old P.O. box last week, Lila said. She taunts her victims. It's her game. Jake's throat tightened. Why tell me now? He asked. Lila's jaw clenched. Because Ethan's finally rebuilding, and I won't let her do this again. You're not the last, Jake. She's already moving on. She nodded toward the folder. Read it, then decide what you're worth. She got back in her car and drove off, leaving Jake standing in the lot, the weight of the folder heavier than he expected. Back in his car, he pored over the documents. Every page was a knife twist. Sophia's calculated moves, her charm weaponized to dismantle Ethan's life, now mirrored in Jake's. He thought of her tablet, the messages with Ryan he'd seen that morning. You don't mind taking over a broken project, do you? She'd written. Jake wasn't just a husband. He was a mark, a stepping stone to whatever Sophia wanted next. His phone buzzed, another group chat notification from her colleagues, probably mocking his exit. He ignored it, his mind racing with one question. What else had she taken? He drove to their South Congress condo, the city's lights blurring past. It was just after 6 p.m., and Sophia would be at her office, likely with Ryan, planning her next act. Jake slipped inside, the silence of their home eerie. He went straight to his desk, where he kept his father's pocket watch, a worn, brass heirloom, the last thing his dad gave him before cancer took him. Jake checked the drawer. Empty. His stomach dropped. She knew what that watch meant, how he'd clean it every Sunday, how he'd held it when his dad's hospital bed went quiet. She'd taken it, not for value, but to wound. Jake grabbed Sophia's tablet again, this time with purpose. The messages with Ryan were still open, but he dug deeper, finding a thread labeled Work Docs. It wasn't documents. It was a plan. Move the funds by Friday, Ryan wrote. He won't notice till it's done. Sophia's reply. Already on it. Power of attorney is a gold mine. Jake's blood ran cold. Last year, during his hernia surgery, he'd signed over financial power of attorney to Sophia for emergencies. She'd promised to handle bills, nothing more. Now, he realized she'd used it to access their joint account. He logged into their bank app, hands shaking. The joint savings, $50,000 they'd built for a house, showed a balance of $12.47. 2 wire transfers and a cashier's check, all dated yesterday, had drained it. Jay called the bank, his voice tight. How could she do this without my signature? The rep's answer was a punch to the gut. Your power of attorney from June 2024 is still active, sir. It grants her full access. Jake hung up, the room spinning. She hadn't just betrayed him. She'd weaponized his trust. He needed answers, but not from her. Not yet. He texted Carlos, his old trade school friend who ran an auto shop in East Austin. Need a place to crash. No questions. Carlos replied instantly. Back room's yours. Keys under the mat. Jake packed a second bag, laptop, charger, a few clothes, and left, locking the condo behind him. He drove to Carlos's shop, the city's skyline fading in his rearview. The shop smelled of oil and metal, grounding him. Carlos handed him a blanket and a nod. You good? He asked. Jake shook his head. Not yet. That night, on a lumpy futon, Jake spread out Lila's folder. The evidence was damning, but incomplete. He needed more. Proof of the transfers, Sophia's endgame, Ryan's role. His phone buzzed again, this time a voicemail from Sophia. Jake, where are you? You left the garage door open. Come home. No apology, no concern, just a complaint, like he was still her errand boy. He deleted it, his jaw tight. Then he noticed a new email from her, sent an hour ago. Subject, what you took from me. He didn't open it. Not yet. Instead, he Googled divorce lawyer Austin and found a name, Max Pell, the fire exit. Reviews called him ruthless, perfect for men burned by betrayal. Jake emailed Max, attaching screenshots of the tablet messages and Lila's documents. Need help. She's stealing everything. Max replied within minutes. 8 a.m. Tomorrow. Bring everything you've got. Jake lay back, staring at the shop's cracked ceiling. He wasn't broken, not like Sophia thought. He was awake, and for the first time in years, he felt dangerous, not with fists, but with clarity. Sophia had taken his money, his watch, his trust, but she left one thing behind, his will to fight. And that was her first mistake. Jake sat in his car outside Sophia's office, a converted warehouse in Austin's tech district, the engine off and windows cracked to let in the evening air. It was 6:15 p.m., Friday, and the building's lights glowed against the darkening sky. He tracked his father's pocket watch to this exact location, thanks to a smart tag he'd attached months ago for just in case. The app pinged its last signal from Sophia's desk, a brazen move that screamed she didn't expect him to fight back. His hands gripped the steering wheel, the folder from Lila, Sophia's ex-sister-in-law, sitting on the passenger seat, its contents fueling his resolve. He wasn't here for drama. He was here for what was his. The security guard at the entrance was dozing, his head tilted back in a cheap plastic chair. Jake slipped past, using Sophia's spare fob key he'd kept tucked in his wallet. She'd either forgotten he had it or assumed he'd never dare use it. The elevator hummed to the 3rd floor, where her office sat behind frosted glass etched with Sophia Lane, creative director. Jake moved quickly, his steps silent on the polished concrete. The door was unlocked, another sign of her arrogance. There it was, on her desk, his father's watch, its brass face catching the faint glow of a desk lamp. Not hidden, not locked away, but displayed like a trophy. His chest tightened, not with sadness, but with a cold fury. He reached for it, fingers brushing the worn engraving, when the elevator dinged. Footsteps echoed, followed by laughter. Her laughter, wild and unrestrained, a sound Jake hadn't heard in years. Sophia's voice carried, sharp and teasing. "You seriously left it on the desk?" Ryan's voice followed, amused. "Of course," she replied. "Let's see how long it takes him to grow a spine." Jake ducked behind a partition, his pulse hammering. "You're playing with fire," Ryan said, chuckling. "Oh, please," Sophia shot back. "Jake wouldn't burn a match without my permission." Their voices grew closer, the unmistakable sound of a kiss stopping Jake's breath. He closed his eyes, fingers curling into fists, not from jealousy, but from the sheer audacity of their dismissal. They moved toward the couch in the corner, Sophia giggling again. 10 minutes before the team call, she said, "More than enough for you, right?" Jake didn't wait. He stood, stepping into view, the watch in his hand. Sophia froze mid-laugh, her mouth falling open. Ryan stumbled back, fumbling with his belt like a teenager caught in a back seat. Jake's voice was low, steady. "You don't get to keep this part of me." He held up the watch, its faint ticking louder than their silence. Sophia's eyes darted, searching for a comeback, but none came. Ryan muttered something incoherent, stepping toward the door. Jake didn't look at him. His gaze locked on Sophia. "You don't get to rewrite my story," he said and walked out. The elevator ride down felt like a lifetime, the watch heavy in his pocket. He expected her to chase him, to scream, to spin some excuse, but the hall stayed quiet. Back in his car, he checked his phone. No calls, no text from her. Instead, a new email from Max Pell, his lawyer, confirming their meeting tomorrow to file the power of attorney revocation. Jake exhaled, the weight of the confrontation settling into something else, certainty. He'd caught her off guard, and for the first time, he'd seen her flinch. He drove to Carlos's auto shop in East Austin, where he'd been crashing on a futon. Carlos was waiting, leaning against a workbench, a beer in hand. "You get it?" he asked, nodding toward Jake's pocket. Jake held up the watch. "Yeah, and I saw them." Carlos's jaw tightened. "Her and that Ryan guy?" Jake nodded. "They didn't know I was there till I wanted them to." Carlos handed him a beer, his silence saying enough. They sat, the shop's hum of fluorescent lights filling the quiet. Jake opened Lila's folder again, cross-referencing it with the bank app. The $50,000 drained from their joint account was bad, but a new detail caught his eye: a lease transfer for a storage unit, signed with his power of attorney. Sophia had moved his tools, documents, everything to a facility under her name. "She's trying to erase me," Jake said, more to himself than Carlos. Carlos cracked open another beer. "Then don't let her." "What's next?" Jake pulled out his laptop, logging into the storage company's portal. The unit was still in Austin, not yet emptied. He called the office, catching a bored clerk before close. "Can you freeze access to my unit? There's a dispute." The clerk hesitated, then agreed after Jake emailed a copy of his ID and the original lease. It wasn't much, but bought time. "Smart," Carlos said. "She's sloppy. That's her edge." Jake's phone buzzed, a text from his cousin Mia. "Hey, you okay? Sophia said you stormed out last night." Jake stared at the message, his stomach twisting. Mia had been at game night. Her quiet, that was harsh, one of the few voices not laughing at Sophia's jab. But now, her tone felt off, too casual. He typed back, "I'm fine, just needed space." He didn't mention the watch or the office. Not yet. Something about Mia's sudden check-in felt like a thread he wasn't ready to pull. He opened Sophia's email from last night, the one he'd avoided. "What you took from me?" it read. The words were venomous, precise. "You think you won because you grabbed that junk watch? You didn't check the accounts. You didn't notice what I moved. You took my time. I took your future. Make this public, and I'll burn your name to ash." Jake's jaw clenched. She wasn't apologizing. She was threatening. He forwarded it to Max, adding, "She's escalating." Max replied instantly, "This is gold. Keep everything." Jake leaned back, the futon creaking under him. Sophia thought she'd cornered him, but she'd miscalculated. The watch was back in his hands, and the storage unit was locked down. He had Lila's evidence, Max's expertise, and Carlos's loyalty. But the biggest weapon was his clarity. Sophia wasn't just betraying him. She was following a script she'd run before. And scripts could be rewritten. He wasn't sure how yet, but as he set the watch on the workbench, its steady tick grounding him, he knew one thing. She'd underestimated him. And that was her second mistake. Jake sat in the cramped office of Max Pell, his divorce lawyer, above a tattoo parlor in East Austin. The hum of needles buzzed through the thin walls as Max flipped through Lila's folder, his eyes scanning the bank statements and forged documents like a hawk. It was 8:30 a.m. Saturday, and Jake had barely slept, the confrontation at Sophia's office still replaying in his mind. His father's pocket watch sat in his pocket, its faint ticking a reminder of what he'd reclaimed, and what he still stood to lose. Max leaned back, tapping a pen on the desk. She used your power of attorney to drain $50,000 and transfer your storage unit. That's fraud, plain and simple. We can void the authorization today, but we need more to nail her. Jake slid his phone across the desk, showing Sophia's threatening email. You took my time. I took your future. Max's lips curled into a grim smile. She's cocky. That's our leverage. He outlined the plan. File to revoke the power of attorney, freeze the joint account's remaining transactions, and subpoena records of Sophia's recent transfers. She's not as smart as she thinks, Max said. The storage unit's still in Austin, right? Jake nodded. He'd locked it down last night, but the clerk had confirmed Sophia hired a moving company to clear it tomorrow. We'll beat her to it, Max said, drafting a court order to seize the unit's contents. Jake left the office, his mind racing. He drove to the storage facility, a squat building off I-35, and met the manager, who let him in after checking the court order Max emailed. Inside the unit were Jake's tools, old photos, and documents. His life, boxed up like it didn't matter. He loaded what he could into his car, securing the rest for Max's team to collect. As he locked the unit, his phone buzzed. A text from Mia, his cousin. Sophia's freaking out. Says you stole something from her office. What's going on? Jake's grip tightened. Mia had been a game night. Her pitying, that was harsh, a faint defense. Now, her loyalty seemed shaky. He replied, just got what's mine. Talk later. He wasn't ready to trust her, not after seeing her with Sophia at the Harrow. Back at Carlos's auto shop, Jake spread out the evidence on a workbench. Lila's folder, Sophia's email, screenshots of her text with Ryan. Carlos, wiping grease from his hands, peered over. She's got help, man. Ryan's not just a sidekick, he's in deep. Jake nodded, pulling up a new find, a LinkedIn post from Ryan boasting about a consulting gig with a vague LLC. Max had flagged it as a shell company tied to Sophia's transfers. They're moving money together, Jake said. She's not just leaving me. She's building something new. Carlos cracked a soda. Then take it apart. You've got the receipts. Jake's phone buzzed again, a voicemail from Sophia. You think you're clever, sneaking in my office? You're pathetic. Come home, or I'll make this worse. He saved it for Max, his jaw tight. She wasn't scared. She was doubling down. He opened her tablet, still in his bag, and found a new message from Ryan. Storage unit's a bust. They froze it. Plan B? Sophia's reply. He won't find a rest. Meet me at the Harrow tonight. Jake's pulse quickened. The Harrow, the luxury high-rise where Sophia had posted that smug Instagram photo, wearing his father's watch like a necklace. He forwarded the message to Max, adding, they're meeting tonight. Can we trace the money? Max called back within minutes. Good catch. I've got a forensic accountant pulling records. If they're funneling cash through that LLC, we'll find it. Stay away from the Harrow. Don't tip them off. Jake agreed, but the urge to confront her burned. Instead, he drove to a coffee shop across from the Harrow, parking out of sight. At 9:13 p.m., he saw them, Sophia, Ryan, and to his shock, Mia, walking out of the lobby laughing like old friends. Mia carried a gift bag, her arm linked with Sophia's. Jake's stomach churned. His cousin, who'd helped plan his wedding, who'd framed their vows, was part of this. He snapped a photo, sending it to Max. Mia's with them. She's involved. Max replied, don't jump to conclusions. Dig into her connection. Jake scrolled through his texts with Mia, landing on a photo from 9 months ago. Her and Sophia at brunch, wearing matching necklaces. Caption, my chosen sister. The betrayal hit harder than Sophia's. Mia had been family, his confidant. Now, she was another pawn in Sophia's game. He texted Carlos. Mia's in on it. Need your buddy to trace her phone. Carlos's friend, a tech guy, had pinged Sophia's watch before. If Mia was meeting Sophia, her location could lead to more evidence. By midnight, Carlos's friend sent a report. Mia's phone had pinged at the Harrow repeatedly over the past month, often late at night. Jay cross-checked it with Sophia's calendar, still synced to his phone. Team drinks and client meetings lined up with Mia's visits. She's not just a friend, Jake said, voice low. She's covering for her. Carlos nodded. Then we get proof. Max can use it. Jake spent the night combing through Mia's social media, finding subtle posts, likes on Sophia's photos, comments about new beginnings. It wasn't hard evidence, but it was a pattern. The next morning, Max called with news. The accountant found $30,000 funneled to Ryan's LLC, labeled as consulting fees. It's from your joint account, post-surgery. We've got her on misappropriation. Jake exhaled, relief mixing with dread. What about the storage unit? Max's voice brightened. Secured. Her movers showed up, but the court order stopped them. Your stuff's safe. Jake clutched the watch in his pocket. It wasn't enough. Sophia had taken his money, his trust, his cousin, but she'd left him something stronger, a reason to outsmart her. Jake stood outside the Travis County Courthouse, the Austin sun beating down on the steps. It was 10 a.m., 6 weeks after he'd walked out of Sophia's office with his father's watch in hand. The manila envelope in his grip held the final pieces of evidence. Bank records, forged leases, screenshots of Sophia's texts with Ryan and Mia's complicity. Max Pell, his lawyer, had called it slam dunk. She didn't just betray you, Max had said. She broke the law. Jake's fingers brushed the watch in his pocket, its steady tick a reminder of what he'd fought to reclaim. Not just the heirloom, but himself. Inside, the hearing was swift. Max presented the case with surgical precision. Sophia's misuse of Jake's power of attorney to drain $50,000, her fraudulent transfer of his storage unit, and the shell company she and Ryan used to funnel funds. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with sharp eyes, reviewed Lila's folder, proof of Sophia's past schemes against her ex-husband, and the threatening email Sophia sent Jake. You took my time. I took your future, it read. The courtroom was silent as Max played Sophia's voicemail, her voice dripping with disdain. You're pathetic. Come home, or I'll make this worse. Sophia, seated across the room, stared at the floor, her usual confidence gone. The ruling came fast. The court voided the power of attorney, ordered Sophia to return the $50,000 plus penalties, and froze her assets pending further investigation. All property she'd taken, Jake's tools, documents, and the watch, was to be returned immediately. Max had pushed for criminal charges, but Jake declined. Let the truth bury her. He'd told Max that's enough. As they left the courthouse, Max clapped his shoulder. You're free, Jake. Not just divorced, cleared. Jake nodded, the weight of 4 years lifting, though the sting of Mia's betrayal lingered. Back at Carlos's auto shop, Jake sorted through his reclaimed belongings from the storage unit. The photos, tools, and old letters felt like relics of a life he barely recognized. Carlos handed him a coffee, grinning. You took her down without throwing a punch. Respect. Jake's phone buzzed, a text from his mother. Come home when you're ready. He hadn't seen her in weeks, too ashamed to admit how far he'd fallen. But now, he felt ready to face her, to rebuild. That evening, Jake drove to his mother's house in Round Rock, a 30-minute trip that felt like a pilgrimage. She met him on the porch, her arms open. Do you need a place to sleep, baby? She asked, no judgment in her voice. Jake hugged her, the first real embrace he'd allowed himself in months. Over dinner, he told her everything, Sophia's schemes, Ryan's role, Mia's betrayal. His mother listened, then slid a small leather case across the table. For your watch, she said. You protect what matters. Jake opened it, the case perfectly sized for his father's heirloom. He smiled, the knot in his chest loosening. The next day, Jake acted on a final move. He'd written a letter to Sophia, 3 sentences long. I hope the silence teaches you what your noise never could. Control isn't love. I hope you never find another me to break. He didn't send it. Instead, he mailed an anonymous envelope to the Harrow's leasing office, containing copies of Sophia's forged financial transfers with a tip line circled in red. 2 days later, Carlos sent him a screenshot, Sophia's Instagram, now private, with a caption about starting over. The Harrow had evicted her, her curated life crumbling under the weight of her own lies. Jake didn't celebrate with fanfare. He and Carlos grabbed burgers and a six-pack, toasting in the shop's back room. To small men with big backbones, Carlos said. Jake raised his bottle. To quiet exits and loud comebacks. The next week, he accepted a job offer from a climate control firm in Denver. Better pay, new city, no ghosts. He sold his car, packed his bags, and stopped by his mother's one last time. She hugged him on the porch, the watch case in his hand. You don't let it define you, she said, but you keep it close. In Denver, Jake settled into a small apartment, the watch now on his desk, ticking steadily. He didn't check Sophia's social media anymore, didn't need to. Max had forwarded a final update. Her marketing firm sidelined her after clients caught wind of the scandal. Ryan's LLC was under audit. Mia had texted once, a vague apology Jake left unanswered. They weren't his story anymore. At night, he'd sit by his window, the Rockies looming in the distance, and feel something he hadn't in years. Peace. Sophia could keep her likes, her schemes, her rewritten narratives. Jake had his truth, and that was enough.